Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in because today we're going to hear a lot more about product and product leadership and what that means for scale-up software companies. We're really excited at Onsite that we have Ryan Polk, who has joined us from Carbon Black, where he supported them through a number of huge successful milestones, but he has joined us to lead the Product Center of Excellence here at Onsite Onsite, which is our operations team that works day in and day out with our portfolio scale-ups. To help them on their growth journey. But Ryan, welcome to Onsite and welcome to the team.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
And so tell me a little bit, what does it mean to be a chief product officer? And give me a little bit more of your background and your time at Carbon Black.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it means a lot of different things to be a chief product officer right now in the market, right? There's a bunch of different roles that fit underneath this umbrella. At Carbon Black, my form of chief product officer was to run engineering, product management, infrastructure and operations, support, and a few other groups. But when you look at the chief product officer role as it's evolving in the market, there's a lot of different roles that have that same structure. You may have a CTO that does that. Nowadays, you may have a COO that has that same role. And then you have the chief product officer, which is evolving to be either that top leader or the head of product management, somebody who is really driving the product strategy and understands the business and technology side of the business. And when we really talk about CPO nowadays, it's really that role. It's the role of somebody who is that bridge between business and technology and really is driving the strategy of the business.
Amazing. And, at Onsite, we work with scale up. So startup, scale up, grown up. And these scale ups, even though they can be earlier stage, they're really on that steep trajectory of growth. And during that scale up stage, there are different inflection points that product officers and people focused on product need to think about. How would you describe the evolution of product as a company scales?
Yeah, most certainly. I mean, when you talk at the very beginning, right, we won't talk too much because we love to talk about scale ups. We talk at the startup level. A lot of times your head of product is your CEO, your CTO, right? That original founding team that's super passionate about the product they're building. As those teams grow and as you start to grow the organization, you have multiple engineering teams working on things. You have multiple people trying to drive that strategy forward. Your first hire is probably a director or a VP of product, somebody who can really bring the concept of product management into the organization and give you a core set of activities. A lot on the delivery side, how do we coordinate what we're delivering, how we're delivering it, with your executive team still being that primary focus of strategy. Where are we going? How are we going to get there, right? As you get bigger and you get into the true scale up zone, your CEO, typically needs to spend more time focusing on the market, needs to talk about sales, needs to be working through being that primary conduit to the investors and continuing to gather funding for the business. Your CTO tends to have a larger and larger organization, right? A larger engineering organization that you need to start to figure out how you drive the culture there. Or your CTO may actually be an evangelist for the organization and be focused on a lot of those sales activities and creating the market for your product. And that's where that gap for CPO starts to become evident, right? We need somebody who can figure out where we're going to go. We need to have somebody who can take the vision of the leadership team and turn it into something that is real, that we can all talk about. And then take that and do the research and the customer interaction to really turn that into an execution strategy, where we are really truly taking that strategy and taking it to the engineering teams and executing across the board. Bringing those two groups together, having your CPO and your CTO really driving hand in hand the product execution and strategy together.
Definitely. And, just to alleviate a lot of those pain points that you experience when you scale, I think one of the chief problems that we see for startups as they do edge towards becoming a scale up is bringing on the right leadership who has the experience, the space to think, the space to do research, the space to engage with customers. And that's where that CPO role becomes so critical, to be able to thread all of those other leadership functions together. But what are some of the common problems that CPOs experience themselves, particularly for startups who might be bringing on their first CPO in that scale up phase?
Well, the first things first, you're not the expert. Right? You may be an expert from somewhere else. You may be an expert in the same market even, but in this company, you're not the expert. You're the person who's coming in to try and gather the expertise and bring people together around a strategy that they can all believe in, they can all execute on, right? And so the first skill you're looking for from a CPO is really that facilitative leadership mentality, right? That I'm here to build the systems and bring people together to make the right decisions. From there, you start to grow your experience and you do become a bit more of the expert, but you have to hold on to that facilitative leader concept to really be successful over time and to continue to scale with the organization. The second thing you'll run into is the gap between product and engineering, right? This is just a natural evolution of teams, especially when companies invest later in product management and really do focus their investment on engineering, which is a totally natural pattern of how startups grow. Mm-hmm. And so bridging that gap, being a CPO who is focused on building out your team, having the right expertise on the market side, but also having roles that are highly coordinated and collaborative with the engineering organization is key. So how do you integrate and build teams that are highly effective, including your product managers? You might have a role like product owner, your user experience folks. How do you bring them all together with the engineering teams to really connect with your customers and build a good product, right? So bridging that gap is huge. And then the next one you run into a lot as you scale is how do we bridge the gap with the sales and marketing side? And how do we really take that execution engine that we're building and the strategy engine we're building and connect it to the people who are out there selling our products every day and make sure that they know both what we're building, but also really that they know the why of the strategy and where we're going as part of it. And so as a CPO, your job is to connect the whole organization around the product strategy and get everybody rallied around where we're going, right? And that is a big one as you look at how companies grow. We start to create organizational structures, but those structures need to be broken down from a leadership perspective to make sure that we're constantly coming together on our strategy.
Definitely. And I'm sure you've seen this, particularly the evolution of Carbon Black. When you're a startup and there might be 20 of you in a team, and even though you're all focused on your job of either marketing or selling the product or building the product, you're not necessarily, as you get more and more people, it's much harder to be aligned with that why. And as one of my old favorite CEOs used to say, rowing that boat in the same direction and rowing it faster. So the CPO role definitely feels like it's one of those linchpin roles for a scaling company. You've kind of touched on a few, and because I think you're clearly awesome, but what are some of the characteristics of a great CPO for some of the people who might be thinking about, it's time that I actually go out and bring in a leader to focus on product?
Well, so first thing most people think of is technology and expertise, right? And that is absolutely key to have somebody who understands your market, understands where you're going, can get your strategy and take it to the next level. But I would actually classify what you would consider more soft skills above that expertise, right? I love to have experts. I love to have people who can understand my market quickly. But as I said before, having a more facilitative leader, having somebody who is there to bring the team together around strategy is number one for me. So, when you think about the different roles built into an organization, hardly ever do we say this role is going to be key to getting everybody rowing together as one. And that CPO role is absolutely there. There's a strategy side of this as well. A lot of folks have built organic strategies in their career. They've worked through and said, I understand my market, I understand where I'm going. And to a large degree, their strategy is very much from the gut. It's something that they determine and decide based on small experiments and driving the products forward. When you're not the expert, when you're coming into an organization, you need to have frameworks to follow. You need to understand how you're going to lay out the strategy for the business, how you're going to do the research across the market to understand where you should go, how you're going to connect with your sales and marketing teams, and how you're going to connect with your customers around where you're going as well. How can you bring all of that together in one framework and really focus on selling that across the company as the direction? Mm-hmm. That is a skill. That is there's product professionals out there who use many different frameworks. One of my favorites is what's called Where to Play, How to Win. Mm-hmm. But there's a bunch of different frameworks out there for driving strategy as a mechanical process, a research process. You need to have that to be an effective CPO. The other side of this is you do need to have some technical capability. You do need to understand the engineering side to some degree, right? Especially when you're building high-tech and SaaS products. You need to understand the mechanics of building those products and what it means to invest across the board, not just in new product capability, but also in architecture and in technical debt, and understanding how those investments are going to drive your strategy and your product roadmap forward. And that is a key skill as well. I think of the optimal CPO is somebody who first is that facilitator and collaborator, but then brings a whole host of tools to that conversation to help make people's lives better and make it easier for us to make decisions around where we should be going.
Definitely. It's quite the role, and definitely an important one as you're formalizing your strategy, as you're bringing along a lot of different groups and divisions to really scale a company, to scale at the pace that, I know we see within, and the growth we see within our portfolio at Insight, but also the pace that software companies are expecting to accelerate at. You need to have these roles that can think strategically, but then also drill down into the engineering and into the operations. So the last thing I want to talk to you about is product operations. A lot of people will kind of distance or dissect product strategy and operations. Tell me a little bit more about that as a function, and why is it so important to the success of a scale up?
Absolutely. Well, so from a perspective of thinking about your gut and how you can intuitively build a product strategy, think of that as a compass, right? Every good product leader has a compass. They understand generally what is the right direction for their product intuitively. You think of product operations as the map, right? When you combine a compass and a map, you have a far more viably going to get to your destination if you have both, right? And so when we think about product operations, there's a few core pillars to product operations. One is visibility into where you're at today, right? Where am I on the map? You are here, right? And that tells me how well is my team performing? How well am I delivering my product? Where am I spending my money across my product, right? Which is a key variable in whenever you start to look at your roadmap. If you start to slice up that little pie chart and you realize that 80% of the pie chart is on architecture and maintenance, you realize that you're not going to go anywhere. You are here for a while, right? And so having that visibility and understanding where you are on the map is important. Then starting to look at the other side of product operations, which really is kind of a modification of the research arm of your organization, right? So you think of the integration with your UX team, with your product management team here as well. It's that ability to gather data from your customers and understand where they want you to go, right? And understand how they use your products and give you that whole data set around customer interactivity, customer needs, and customer usage, right? So that's another side of product operations as well. And then being able to use that to determine your overall strategy and say, this is where we need to go based on our, not only where we're at, but also where we want to go. And then the detour we need to make because of what our customers need, right? And so being able to actually plot that entire beginning to destination journey is key. And that's what product operations gives you, right? I can think of a lot of different elements here as well that we build into product operations teams. Some of those are our practices and our process, a team that helps us facilitate and grow and continuously evolve as an organization. And so that is the Sherpa on the way, on the map, helping you get to your destination. So product operations has come together as kind of this core of information in your organization. And that core is incredibly valuable to get you to that destination that you look to achieve. So.
Amazing. Well, we are thrilled to have you as our product Sherpa. And just to summarize to everyone who's listened all the way to the end, there is a lot in the product world that you need to be thinking about as an entrepreneur, as a leader, scaling a business. And Insight Onsite, Insight's scale-up engine, has functional leaders across sales, marketing, customer success, and with Ryan on board to expand our product center of excellence, you'll be hearing a lot more content and playbooks and benchmarking about how to integrate product and really bring that to life in your organization. So Ryan, welcome to the Insight Onsite family, and thank you for listening, everyone.
Thank you.
I'm like, I don't know how.